It is rare to find so much industry expertise all in one spot, right at your fingertips. The world of public adjusting and insurance claims can be a scary one. This changes now. That's why we built this podcast for you, where all the industry experts converge. Let us be your guide to education and personal growth. You're listening to Because Experience Matters, the show for public adjusters who want to up their game. Hosted by the 2021 Public Adjuster of the Year, Jack Hanks. How much money are you leaving on the table by not knowing all the approaches you can take to maximize the payouts to the insured and profits for your business? On this show, you will discover untapped strategies to become an unstoppable public adjuster and an effective advocate for your clients. In every episode, Jack brings on all the industry big dogs, including leading roofers, contractors, lawyers, accountants, and marketers. You'll access the insider scoop, real case studies, real obstacles, and actionable winning solutions. Let's jump in so that you can stop working hard and start working smart.
Hey guys, Jack Hanks, Because Experience Matters podcast, season number 2. I think it's our 4th episode this year. And I always say this, but I actually am excited. I'm so lucky and blessed in my career that I get to surround myself with actually not just good attorneys and good people that do their jobs well, but actually really cool people. And Galen, I consider yourself a very good friend and a very cool person I like hanging out with. So welcome.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think I met you at Win the Storm New Orleans. What year was that? 3 years ago, whatever that was.
Yeah, geez, 2020. Yeah.
That was a blur with the COVID crap. But I just remember standing there and your wife was singing, and I'm standing next to you, and you're like, "Oh, it's my wife." I'm like, "What in the living hell?" That was so cool. That whole thing, how it all came together. So it was really neat. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
It was pretty awesome because with Amanda, because she's a musician, right? There's like no crossover at all in our careers. And like when there's a storm or something, we're like ships passing in the night. Like I'll be gone for a month and I'll get home and she'll be like, "I'm off to Europe for a month to work," you know? So it was really, really funny for her to like actually get to cross into my world a little bit. I never get to cross into her world. Like there's not a lot of property casualty stuff going on in a concert, you know, but so it was really cool for her to get to see it.
Professional singer, like legitimate professional singer.
Yeah, she started as a professional musician when she was 12 years old, I believe.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So like her parents managed her, obviously. I think she started on like the Rosie O'Donnell show and like moved up or something like that. But she's got a band, like 3 guys. 2 of them have been with her since she was a teenager. So they like literally raised her like, you know, like she was kind of raised by wolves, so I guess why we get along so well.
Right.
Yeah, I like didn't have to worry about mom or dad or anything when we started dating. I had to worry, and the bass player he's departed now, but at the time he was there, and all 3 of them had been with her. The bass player had been with her since she was a child. The drummer had been with her since she was like a 13 or 14-year-old, and the guitar player had been with her since she was 17. So it was like walking into like 3 dads who were like,
"That's awesome.
We all have guns. We all know every place in New Orleans
we will whip your ass
and not found." You know, so it took like the better part of a year to kind of win them over.
Where did you guys meet?
All over the place. So there is just this weird confluence of events. Okay. It started with a Valentine's Day about 10 years ago at the All-Star. Yeah, I wish it wasn't really romantic. We were at the All-Star game. They had like a media event, and I had gotten tickets. So I was there. She was there. We kind of met. There's actually a photo of us together that night. That was the first time we met. And then we kept running into each other at like charity things. Like she would be playing and I would be sponsoring or doing something. And after about 3 months of this, she texted me and said, "Are you going to ask me out or what?"
Were you a little shy, Galen?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. People know who she is here. People know who she is here. I didn't know her situation. I didn't know if she had a boyfriend. I didn't know if I was misreading that we were getting along. So I was definitely a little shy. And you know, then we went out and it kind of went from there. It's pretty cool.
Wow. When did you guys get married then?
We're not officially married. I call her my wife a lot because we've been together for 10 years. And it's kind of like
It's easier.
Yeah, so we got engaged 9 years ago. We were gonna get married. We were gonna get married in Brazil. Like the Brazilian government freaking collapsed right before.
Whoops.
And then we were gonna look at like, yeah, well, I mean, we're still together, but then we like eventually we're planning a new wedding for April of 2020. So you can imagine how that played out.
God.
Yeah. So I think like we'll definitely tie that knot, but at some point, like I just started calling her my wife and she started calling me her husband, and it just made life infinitely
more than a
easier.
piece of paper anyway, right? You know what I mean? That piece of paper is just, that's all it really is, right?
So. Well, for sure. And with her, when she was saying she was engaged, only thing people wanted to talk about is like, when's your wedding and stuff. And
yeah, where's your house?
She's like, I'm a business, like I literally have run my own business since I was 12 years old. So I would love to talk to you about who I am. So it was so much easier.
So you talked a little bit about ships passing in the night. Dude, this business is hard on relationships. I'm a testament to that. You know me pretty well. I'm a type A only child entrepreneur, and it's hard. I've actually mellowed my last few years, thank God. But dude, I was married for a while. It's almost, I would say it's almost impossible because like I only see you in hurricanes, right? In events, which is I'm gone. I mean, I was in Florida for 4 months. I was in New Orleans for 6 months. And we get in this work mode and we forget we have families and duties and things like that. So it never worked for me. So God bless you for having it work. You guys, I'm sure you talk about it all the time, right? If she's gone and you're gone, I mean,
yeah, man, it's her. Yeah. It's her, right? You can look, all you have to do at the end of the day in this business to have a successful relationship is not cheat, not do crazy stuff, and make sure that she knows you love her when you're there. But she has to be very patient with your absence and very supportive of that. So it really, I think the burden totally falls on the other person. And I don't think there's any shame. Like I've had so many friends in this industry go through like divorces, end of relationships, and they're like, oh, she's so terrible. And I was like, just stop, dude. She's fine unless she like did something bad to you. Humans are like that. It's really hard to be away from people you love.
Yeah.
Like, don't let that ruin whatever time you had together. Just like enjoy it, think back on it. It's positive. And then you won't come across as like scorned with the next girl you meet, but be very upfront. Like, cause I was not upfront because I wasn't doing hurricanes back when we met.
Okay.
So like, for Hurricane Laura, she was like, she actually said this to me right before Ian. I said, I'm going to run down to Florida. I'll be back. And she goes, I would like to remind you that during Hurricane Laura, you said I'll be back this weekend. And I didn't see you for 3 months. That's fair. Fair.
Yeah, no. Yes. Cause you're like me, we get going and then the brain just clicks and it's like, we're going. And no, that's right. And we're going to work. Right. And she's really cool. She's great. Cause she was like, that's fine. I'm not mad that you disappeared. Tell me the truth. So don't make me a promise that you'll be back this weekend. Exactly.
Tell me you'll let me know when you know.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. No, and that takes a very special person because man, it's hard, bro. I'm not going to make any excuses. I was horrible at it. Once again, I've gotten better with it in my newer relationships, but it takes a special person on the other side to deal with our crap because we're always doing it's 15, 16, 7. Well, yeah, we work all day and then we have a half hour to get to another event, and another event, and another event. And we're constantly eating steaks and drinking wine. It's a thing, and posting on Facebook, all the stuff we're doing. And yeah, it's right.
It's like the sexiest thing, right? You leave your girlfriend, wife, fiance, whatever you have. You leave her for months at a time. You come back and you're fat and you've been partying for 3 months every night, but working your butt off too, right?
Yeah. And
then you try to convince her it's all good, even though you're 50 pounds heavier and
owed $8 million.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody's paid.
And broke, right? And
nobody's paid.
The day you get back, you were dirt poor. Like it'll get better, but you were dirt poor the day you show up.
Yeah, because we just spent $186,000 on lodging, and yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I get it, bro. So that's number one. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Thanks,
I'm glad it's. I mean, after 10 years, you guys will probably be fine. I'm sure. So
yeah, I think she'll stick around for a while, and if she doesn't, it'll be my loss.
Right. So where did you go to law school, Galen?
Tulane down here in New Orleans.
Okay.
I was down here volunteering, doing like Katrina stuff. So, and I think I'm okay. Like, I think I'm smart or whatever, but I went to music school. So I did not have straight A's. Yeah. Yeah. So I had like terrible grades because they were not important. Like,
wow, same.
I was not concerned that the Metropolitan Opera was going to ask what I scored in music theory, you know?
Yeah.
So I had terrible grades because
what's your, are you an instrument guy or what were you?
Opera.
Really?
Yeah. I have a Bachelor of Music in Vocal Performance from Boston University's College of Fine Arts.
We have breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Galen is an opera star. Dude, when we go out for beers next time, I'm making you sing karaoke opera style, bro.
Oof, it's gonna take a lot of beers, but we'll see.
Fine. No way. That's so cool. That is so cool.
So yeah, huge change, right?
Yeah. So how the hell did you become? Let's connect the dots then. So music school, opera. How the hell did you become what? When you went to law school, did you know you wanted to go to law school? Or did you fall into that accidentally?
Yeah, I totally fell into it. So like 21 years old, because I was a little young in school. So even if I had stayed on the music path, I was probably going to take a few years off, still like learn, still take voice lessons, but I wasn't going to go to a master's program with a bunch of 30-year-olds because fun fact, men's voices develop much later than women's. So it would have been like a high school football player trying to compete with the pros, right? Okay. So it just wasn't going to happen. So I was always going to be in a holding pattern for a few years. Okay. So Katrina happened and I was like, man, yeah, this is an opportunity to go like help people do some stuff. New Orleans had a fond place in my heart. I was from Arlington, Texas. Like we'd go there for school trips and stuff. Okay. So came down, volunteered, gutted houses. Yep. For all you contractors that think that I don't know what it's like to do work. But gutted houses as a young man, literally slept in a tent at one point in the Ninth Ward. Like awesome stuff for a young man, like partying around a campfire at night with a bunch of like social justice warriors that are like, just wanted to party and get high and then they work all day. So I met these really cool people.
Now still.
Yeah, like, same thing, right? I mean, it's not different. So I kind of met these and the coolest people that's wrong. They were not the coolest people. The people I got along with the most were like lawyers and law students that were there helping. Okay. So they kind of were like, you should go to law school. So I took the LSAT. I did fine. This will shock anyone to hear, but Tulane was very nervous that they would not have law students coming right after Katrina with the city being destroyed. So I also think like the barrier to entry was like super, super low, if that makes sense. Like C's, I never
get degrees, baby. C's get degrees, bro. I'm with you.
That's the thing. Like I never went to anyone who's like, I'm a genius, I'm going to law school. Like I was like, I'm going to be the dumbest person there and I'm gonna have to work my butt off. And that's what I did. But no, law school was not even a preconceived notion, but it ended up becoming necessary because I wanted to start this nonprofit with some friends to help with Katrina stuff. Wow. And they were all lawyers and law students. So, and we wanted to provide essentially like legal services to other nonprofits for free and tapping into law schools all around the country. So it ended up being this awesome project I worked on the whole time I was in law school.
No kidding. Wow. Very crazy. That's so cool. Actually, what a good story that is. Look how much I'm learning about Galen Hair, gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people don't ask, so I don't really tell because, what we're talking about on a regular basis, like someone calls me about a claim or whatever, it doesn't come up. But that stuff was so important for like my personal development. And I did okay. Like it turns out I'm not dumb. I got on law review. I did all that stuff that like the smart kids do, but I was super worried. My first year of law school, I must have I made a schedule for myself. And, I basically had class from like 8 to 3, and then I would study from 3 to like midnight, wake up at 5, study from like 5 to 7, and then go to class. And I did that 7. Well, I didn't have class Saturday and Sunday, so I just studied all day, but I did that 7 days a week, the entire first year of law school.
God, man. Yeah, my daughter's, she's taking her LSAT in April, and she'll be she's down to Pepperdine, Loyola, Chicago, or Texas A&M. And I don't know if you saw how much Pepperdine is, but I'm going to have to get these claims settled pretty quick. But
yeah, you will. But Loyola Chicago, I will tell you, is just an excellent school. And if she ends up making that happen, I would strongly recommend it.
She's a smart kid, but I'm like Hunter, you understand? Like all my friends are lawyers, you and Wood and all these guys, and they're like, it's a lot, bro. And I'm like, Hunter, U of A was fun in criminal justice getting 3.9, but this is a different level of nuts because they want to weed you guys out. I'm guessing they want to get rid of the.
Yeah, it's not as bad as you would think. There are some schools where it's really bad, and I'll talk to you about that offline if she applies, because she might want to cast a broader net, not because she won't get into one of those, but there may be other schools that do the things she wants to do or doesn't know she wants to do.
Right.
Like I'm sure she'll get into those. That's not an issue. But you know, there are schools that really aren't known for that. They're known for just kind of like making you become the best student you can be, and then kind of ranking you, and that just affects your job. And I've got a lot of like things that no one listening to this podcast will care about. I've got a lot of thoughts on that. You know, I teach at law school, so I teach trial advocacy at Tulane now. So I'm still interacting with all these students on a daily basis, and it's cool to see.
Look at you, man. This is the cool stuff, right? I mean, I get you guys are super awesome attorneys, but this background stuff is what formulates who you are as a person. And you're very genuine and come across like that. And all this stuff makes sense now when you start talking about it, right? So that's really cool, man. Really cool. So how the hell did you get in this freaking insurance litigation world? Because it's like nobody knows about it until you know about it, right? It's not like car wrecks or, you know, bodily injury or whatever. It's a different world, man.
Yeah, so it was so interesting because so I started on the defense side. My whole goal, like coming out of music school, having some debt, coming from a relatively poor, like by relatively I mean really poor family, like I was going to pay off whatever I incurred, right? Okay. So I knew going into law school I was going to leave with a bill that I would not be able to pay. So I did not have that altruistic, like all the other lawyers that are in this industry. I love them because they're fantastic people. And when they tell you they came in to like help people, they're probably telling the truth. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I definitely wanted to help people. That's why I started that nonprofit. But I was like, I need to go get a 6-figure a year job with the potential to make much more. So I'm going to go to New York City. I'm going to join a huge defense firm. I'm going to put in the time, try to climb 10 years, become partner. That was like my plan. So there was this awesome firm called Ropes and Gray. They're just fantastic. Love these people. You will never deal with them in your career ever, which is one of the things that makes them great people, because they do defense work, and most defense firms in this area are not fun. But they're great. They're great. They're Boston based. I was in their New York office, about 220 attorneys, about 50-50 private equity, and doing like transactional stuff, and then like high stakes litigation where like the demand started with $1 billion, not $1 million, right? Where they could easily bill, you know, 50, 60, 70 million dollars worth of legal fees and still convince their client they were getting a great deal. So I represented a Lloyd's syndicate that did a lot of like airport coverage and things like that. Explosion cases. And that was my job initially, was essentially to, I say this facetiously, right? Like how to figure out how not to pay widows when there was a tragic event in the property casualty realm. Woo! I worked under some of the most amazing genius lawyers I have ever met. Obviously they did defense work. I don't think that really speaks to who they are as people, but I mean, I am talking like the level of acumen these people have, and I say this without insulting anyone, outclass pretty much any attorney in the property casualty industry, plaintiff or defense, period. These guys, they looked at the world a different way, and I learned so much from them, and I learned so much about how carriers think and what they want to do, and I just hated it, right? Like I started a nonprofit while I was in law school.
Did it rip your soul out a little bit? It had to be like just...
Yeah, everything about it ripped your soul out. It wasn't just the work. It was also the schedule. Like it was really unhealthy. You know, you get to the office really early in the morning, you stay until early in the morning. Some people develop substance abuse issues just to like kind of keep the pace. And then you still go out because you're young, right? So you basically go party as hard as you can physically party for like an hour and a half or 2 hours at night, which involves a lot more consumption of a lot more things. And I didn't really get into all that, but I watched friends like kind of spiral down. So I left, came back to New Orleans, cleaned my soul a little bit, did a fellowship at Tulane in the domestic violence clinic, helping teach students how to like litigate DV cases, and then went back into defense work because again, still needed to pay some bills. And that still took about a year. And then I moved over to the plaintiff side.
No kidding. When was it? What year was that?
I think I officially opened Variety here in Checki in September of 2011. We didn't focus just on first party. Like we did what every young lawyer should do that hangs a shingle and do whatever you can get, because guess what? It ain't coming otherwise. The world's changed a little bit. Like today, I feel like if a young lawyer opened a firm, like I could sit down with them, talk to them about advertising, marketing. They could go borrow a little bit of money and they could specialize and kind of figure things out. But back then you took what came in. But I got a couple of property casualty cases that came in early on. Those are the ones I was most comfortable with because I knew what I was doing from the defense side. Right.
Sure.
And so I found a public adjuster in New Orleans, got him to write an estimate, help me out with that. Ended up working with him over the course of the next several years. I would do day claims with that public adjuster. And, that was great for me in a lot of ways because I got to really, really focus on property casualty. And that kind of is what drilled in for me. Like, this is exactly what I want to do.
Right. Very cool. See, it's in the journey amazing, man. You think back and like all the dots connecting, and that's the cool part, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's like 50% like being in the right place at the right time or even the wrong time, and 50% like identifying, okay, this is an opportunity and I'm going to jump on it.
Well, a lot of people don't have their eyes open. My problem is my eyes are way too open and I see everything as an opportunity, which is horrible because, right. It's just like, right. And that's not healthy for business, but at the same time, I'm always very aware and astute of what's going on. And my brain doesn't stop a lot. That's part of the problem, but, that's so cool, man. I do want to talk a little bit about Louisiana. It's its own thing, right? I actually worked Katrina as a contractor way back when, and that was a very emotional tolling storm. That was a lot. There was a lot of heavy burdens there, man. A lot of death and a lot of and you can still see it, man. You still drive some of these streets and it's still there and prevalent what happened. And it's sad. Every time I go to Superdome, that's all I think about is what was in there. You know what I mean? And it's sad. It's really sad. That area has been pounded just unfairly for the last 20 years, brother. And anyway, so.
Yeah, no, it's hard. You're right.
So there's new laws and I'm actually afraid they're going to switch back pretty soon. I think, because I think our side, when I say our side, the plaintiff side hasn't done a great job of being stewards of all this. I think we are all a little bit guilty of it, some more than others, but man, it's just the hourly thing is a pain. We just talked about it offline. It's a lot more paperwork to do work in your state. However, we've been really successful there. I mean, we did Laura and we were there for Ida and did our thing. And we have very little, if any bad debt. We get everything accomplished. We know the appraisal laws. I think we only have 2 or 3 claims in litigation. You guys have both of them. Yeah. I think Wood's got one, and you guys have 2. But we just been damn lucky, I think. But I think we understand the laws better, and I think that's where a lot of PAs and some attorneys as well, Galen, don't know the laws as well as they should, and don't know how to use it to their benefit, and then they get all freaked out why it goes south.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, Louisiana is unique, but not because it's Louisiana. Everyone's always like, oh, Napoleonic Code. Like, that's not really what changes it for us. It's that we actually have some good laws in place,
yes.
But they're peculiar and they're different. I'm not saying the hourly thing is good for PAs, but if you learn how to play within the confines of those statutes, and more importantly, what the case law says and how it interprets it, right. And I'm not asking anyone that's not a lawyer to be a lawyer, but definitely sit down and learn from a lawyer about what the rules are, right? I think the reason you only have a handful of cases in litigation is because you played by the rules, and the carriers realized that because you played by the rules, they would suffer some significant risk by not paying.
Right.
What they're doing on the flip side is just looking for mistakes you made. And, I don't ever say this, like, I guess I even hesitated before I said it on the podcast, but I don't usually say this, but when a contractor brings me a case, which I'm very happy to have, and I don't ever accuse them. And, you won't find a lot of contractors where I accuse them of stuff when they tried to refer me a case. Like, I know that the contractor is probably messed up.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad about that or anything, but I know that's why this case is here. And, so my job, and it's delicate, is I have to politically explain what went wrong, fix it without throwing anyone under the bus, but I've got to I've got an ethical obligation to tell my client what happened. And I'm not going to be like, oh, contractor A did blah, blah, blah. Like usually it's not even bad. It's just like it might be an innocent mistake that would have been fine in whatever state, but it's not fine here. And it gave the carrier some excuse not to pay.
Yeah. Well, it's not knowing the playing field you're in, right? And that's, you know, we work in 38 states. And I'm constantly looking up, like making sure I know what the hell is at line of sight. Is it all these? What's the statute on bad faith? And there usually isn't one. So it's, you know what I mean? It's just it's a lot. And I don't think so. I think a lot of PAs don't understand what it is to be a PA. I think they think you go get a license, which is way too easy, by the way, way too freaking easy, way too easy. And you put your thumbprint down and they run a background check. If you don't have any fiduciary felonies, you get your freaking license, and then you write an exactimate and you turn it in, and then they say no, and then they hand it to you guys. Well, that's not being a public adjuster, man.
No, it's not.
No, and I think that's 85 or 90% of them just do that. And I think it's lack of knowledge and lack of training, lack of I think it's just too easy, you know. And there should be some sort of school or some sort of like something besides a test to go take to be a PA, because we're dealing in hundreds of millions of dollars, man, and it's scary. And do you ever get a case and just look at it from a PA and go, I can't take this because it's such a debacle? Or, I mean,
yeah, I mean, here's my quandary, Jack. I have done that. I try not to, even when it's that bad. And here's the reason, because by then I'm talking to the client.
Okay.
And now I've met someone, and this person is screwed. And so unfortunately, even though it's harder and I make it way less as a result because we have to put so much more resource into it, I try to approach it from what can I do to pull this back from the brink? Okay. Because, man, at the point that I meet the client, I'm not going to screw the PA, even if they did a terrible job, and even if they consistently do a terrible job and I don't like them for whatever reason, like I'm still not going to tell that potential client, hey, your PA sucks. There's nothing that can be done. I'm out. Nice to meet you.
Who are those PAs you're talking about, Galen?
Yeah, you want names? But no. So, you know, like, but of course, like everyone's and you know, no one should read too much into that. Like some personalities gel and some personalities don't. There are people that I don't get along with. And I am not everyone's cup of tea. So I know that too. But you know, even if I'm someone that you don't get along with, I'm not going to default to throwing you under the bus.
Right.
You introduce me to your client. I might be mad at you that you didn't do a good job, but if I think it's salvageable, I will try to salvage it. That doesn't mean I'll feel good about you. I still will be pretty pissed. I have told PAs offline, you screwed that woman. You almost ruined this case. You know, you almost whatever. And usually I'm just venting because at the point that you're accusing someone of that, it's not a productive conversation anyway. But you know, I will try to, I have walked away from claims because they were so foobarred, but I try not to if I can. And it's not really greedy. Like I want all the claims. If you send it to me to look at and it's foobar, I'll be like, yeah, no, I'm not into it. But man, the second you put me on a text or introduce me to your client, I'm like, man, now I have to either save this or tell them it's not savable and why. I don't want to do that to them. And especially, man, you know, everyone's like large loss commercial, and that's obviously what pays the bills, and I love it. But the way to get to my heartstrings obviously is to put me in touch with like a single mother on a single family home where if she loses that house, it's done. You know, now
that's what's so hard, because man, I think all of us in this business feel a moral obligation to help as many people as we can. However, on the flip side of that, we run a business, you run a business, and I have to be profitable or I'm not going to ever have my business. And I have kids and associates and a partner and a family and employees. And I have a stewardship for both of those. And man, sometimes those don't align. And that's the shit I hate, Galen, because we get 7, 8, 9, 10 calls a day. And some of them are just not, man, I have to put the profit sometimes before the moral obligation. And then I feel bad about that, but we always try to give them some sort of, hey, I can't do it, but here's a local guy that can, or maybe we can do an appraisal, or maybe we can do something, because people just don't know. And it's such a skewed, let's face it, we're throwing little pebbles at Empire State Building, right? That's what we're doing here. To be real, we're never going to win the whole thing. It's just, so I have this deep sense of moral obligation to help everyone, but we can't. And I that's what sucks. We don't have unlimited resources. Nobody does. The insurance carriers, I don't say they're unlimited, but they have trillions, not billions or, you know what I mean? It's so hard, brother.
And yeah. But you got to figure it out, or you don't. I mean, I'm not attacking people that don't take smaller claims. And there are states where, like, I think Texas right now is a great state, not for PAs, but for attorneys for small claims.
Sure.
Because if they mess with you under prompt pay, you can get really high attorney fees.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I bet half or 9% of the people listening don't know what that means.
Yeah. So think of all the big players out in Texas, and you'll see they advertise like these huge judgments, right? And then you click on it and you see, and like the client only really got a little bit of money and the law firm got it all. And like you could default to that's what's wrong with lawyers these days. But it's not a class action or something like that. What happened is, and I'm making up numbers, but maybe this lady only had a $27,000 claim, right? Maybe that's all it was. That's all the case was really worth. But, the carrier decided to be obnoxious because it's a $27,000 claim. They decided to completely mess with this lady because they figured no attorney is going to jump in and represent that on 40%. What does that mean? Their best day is 40% of that. That's not going to go very far.
Yeah.
And and even if they start, they're going to go away if it looks like it's going to be litigated for 3-4 years. But now the carrier messes with this law firm for 4 or 5 years. They make it go to trial. And the lawyer the whole time in Texas is keeping their time, just like PAs are supposed to be in Louisiana.
Right.
They're booking all their time concurrently. Like they hang up with they hang up with you on the phone for a Texas claim, and they're logging, 0.6 phone call with Jack Hanks about blah, 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 2.7 hours drafting, whatever. They're keeping all that time. And then they submit it and they say, look, here's a reasonable per hour rate for me, 300, 200, 800, depending on the experience. And I want my fees, because they shouldn't have messed with that lady. And it is unfair to make that lady give me 40% of what she needs to replace that architectural shingle roof. So give me my fees. And that's where some of these law firms in Texas that have done quite well, I'm not putting them down at all. I think, like, people criticize the Texas model, but that is where the Texas model works well, is there is an incentive for a law firm to help a tiny claim if that person has been screwed over. Now, if they haven't, if it's a legitimate dispute, we can't really tell, like, law firms aren't going to be able to touch those because they're still going to have that problem.
Right.
But where it's a real kind of bad faith failure to abide by the Prompt Pay Act, like, issue, those attorneys can make significant funds, which removes that disincentive that exists. Like, compare that to Florida, just got rid of attorney fees. What do you think is going to happen to those trailer parks if they get hit by a windstorm or a hailstorm in a couple of months? No attorney is going to touch them.
They're going to get 25 cents on the dollar, and with the settlement, that's all they're going to get. And I can't touch them.
Yeah. I mean, you might try, but what are you going to do after a while? Like, all you're going to do is submit your estimate, try for a bit, and then you're going to be like, well, this isn't worth it. I can't keep investing time in this.
No, it sucked. And once again, I think our industry created we had a really nice leash for a long time in Florida, and our industry beat the living hell out of it. Hogs get fed, pigs get slaughtered. Is that
pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered? I was just talking to a friend of mine about this today in reference to a few different industry people. And he's not even someone people would know listening to this podcast. He's been doing day claims in Louisiana for years, one of my best friends, but he's not on the storm scene, so to speak. Right. And I said, there's this moment where you're looking at a situation, or you're thinking, and you have this ability to make a ton of money. And the second you decide, I'm going to break laws or rules or whatever to go get that money, you have intentionally put yourself on a very, very dangerous path that almost always, even if you make that money in the short term, is going to end really, really badly. Go make money. Yeah. Do things to make money. Like, no one really cares, right? But make sure, like, you ask yourself that question when you come up with a new idea. Like, is it illegal? Is it immoral? Is it unethical? If the answer to any of those is yes, stop. Right? If the answer is no to all of those, keep going.
If you don't know, it's probably no. You probably need to avoid that. If you don't know the answer, it's people, like, I get all on Facebook all the time, hey, is this legal? Well, if you're asking if it's legal, it's probably not. Let's be real.
Yeah, and look, I don't get mad at those folks because some of them are young or new, right? But yeah, I just saw one blow up the other day on Facebook, right? Someone was like, I'm doing these things. Is this cool? And everyone was like, you were breaking the law. What is your
the
problem?
Florida one. I saw that. Like, hey, I'm doing
Yeah.
no. Number one, you need to probably take that post down because I'm sure the Department of Insurance in Florida is going to be knocking at your door tomorrow. And two, man, private message somebody, and I think that I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to talk about social media next. It's such a lion's den of garbage. Like that poor kid didn't know. He didn't know the answer. And I feel where we fail, and I'm going to include myself in this, is I try to make myself available. I know you do too, to answer all these questions all the time. And I think people are uncomfortable asking them because that's how I learned. Dude, when I became a P, I had a business card and I used to get fires text me and I go chase fires. That's how I started. I didn't know all these freaking rules and laws and stuff. And you learn the hard way by watching someone get their ass pounded in or making your own mistakes, right? So I think we as a group and community need to do a better job of assimilating information back into the groups that makes sense without any feedback or fallback of people getting their ass kicked in for asking a question they just don't know the answer to. That kid was genuine. I didn't know, right? He had a gut feeling, but he didn't know. And then you start reading these things like, oh, you're an idiot. And like, dude, can we not banish this kid for not knowing, right?
Yeah, I think he got kicked out of that group too, but the post stayed up, which is like a double whammy because now he can't participate in the discussion, but also everyone's just going to hold on to all that bad information. And
yeah,
it's just going to be out there, which makes me super uncomfortable for so many reasons. But and I'm not even putting down the moderator of the group. Like I get it, but it's, social media sucks for so many reasons. It's got a ton of benefits, obviously. Like it has definitely beaten down Goliath in terms of marketing, right? You can start your own homemade company and compete with a Fortune 500 in the truest ways. And I love that. And it's awesome. And how many people in this industry now are doing most of their marketing on social media? I have no problem with that, but it is still you. So like, this is the rule. It's in writing forever. So you don't post something on social media that you wouldn't be cool with making a sign and walking into a conference and holding it up, whether that's a photo, a statement, a question,
or a trial.
Yeah. I mean, but people think, oh, the trial doesn't matter, right? Because it's not that bad. Like there's other examples just of personal conduct and stuff. And if you're not cool with taking that post that you made, blowing it up into a big sign and holding it over your head at the next conference, don't make the post.
The big arrows coming down.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do it for attention and social media is hard, right? I mean, you do a lot. I'd probably do a fair share, but it's without it, I wouldn't have this career I have. But I try to, I try to put thought into it, and I try to be. I don't know if you notice, I'm getting more, a little more. Like I picked this torch up. I know this may sound weird, Galen, but when I won the, not to brag, but I'm going to. When I won the SVG P of the Year last year, I was going to a coffee shop here in Scottsdale a couple of days later, and I was exhausted because those things. It's fun, but it's like spring break, right? And I thought to myself, man, even though it's corny, I won this award from my peers and all these in this group I'm in, and it meant something to me. And I felt this. I had this epiphany, and this sounds so corny and so off the. I had this epiphany that, man, I owe back now. I owe this community of all these people, roofers and lawyers and PAs and I owe to be better and smarter and do better things and post better and put more information out and teach more and not be some jackass on a roof, just to be a jackass on a roof, right? So I had this. I'm trying to just get more information out that benefits people without berating them, even though it's very frustrating. But I think it's a lack of our industry. Not just there's so much not right, and but I can sit there and complain about it, or I can help and do something about it, right? So I kind of made that choice, right?
Well, and this is the thing. You're right. You do owe back, and everyone owes back. Not just you, not just me, everyone. And someone listening to this could be like, no, I really don't. Like but here's the analysis. Really simple. You wake up in the morning, whether you wake up in an RV, in a little shack, in a van down by the river, or in a mansion.
Which we've all done.
And somehow that place that you live was there. You put your feet on the ground. Someone paid for that house. And you're going to say, I did. No, you didn't. You participated very, very heavily in paying for that house. But I made it. Let's say I made the money for my house from cases. Well, I had people that worked for me that helped me with those. I had a referral source or a marketing company that helped me get that case. And by the way, let's not forget, tragedy literally had to happen to someone for me to earn a living.
Yes.
Insurance adjusters had to be employed. And at some point in time, someone that facilitated this process was not an expert. I've been very lucky to have you send me a few claims. Okay. But you know what? I don't think you're going to argue with me about it. You were not, I imagine, and I didn't know you back then, you were not always a good public adjuster. No, you probably were a shit public adjuster at some point. And anyone, doesn't matter who, maybe gave you some advice or pushed you along the right way, or you were able, or even the people that are saying no one gives me advice, you saw someone do a good job and you started to emulate them. Right. So like,
or I read something on Facebook that made sense and it clicked, or right.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be so direct as someone sitting you down and being like, here's what you should do. And so I think everyone owes back. I believe in karma. That's my thing. Yep. I don't think that's inconsistent with Christianity at all. Because all it really means is put good things out there, good things will happen. Put bad things out there, bad things will happen. So I believe very strongly that I can believe in karma despite my religious beliefs, right? And bottom line, you did not put yourself where you are today. I am sick and freaking tired of going to conferences and seeing people that made a little bit of money get up on a stage and talk about how they're self-made, because you're not self-made.
No one.
You worked hard and I'm proud of you, but you're not self-made.
No. My parents, my uncles, my aunts, my friends, my teammates in college and high school, my roommates and my kids and my family and my friends and Galen and Chip Merlin and John Wood and the list is, it takes a village, and it absolutely does take a village, man. And yeah, there's no, like, no one wakes up in a cave and, like, you know what I mean? We're not all by ourselves in this world. We have responsibilities to each other. And I think most of us let each other down too much, man. It drives me insane. Like, just be a good human, bro. Just be a human. That's all it really is. I mean, mistakes are okay. I'm fine with mistakes. It's just the moral, ethical stuff that we keep banging our head against all the time drives me. And you and I talked offline about this, about some stuff we're coming up with, and hopefully it does better. But man, it's just, we have to be so much better than we are, and be more thankful and more gracious, and all those big words that we all throw around so easily. We don't do that, man. And I'm getting old, and in my old age here, I'm getting soft, Galen. I'm going to tell you. But no, it means a lot. And then, you and I talk all the time. I talk to Chris Corbell and Todd Stern and John Wood. And all these people I surround myself with are just good, humble, moral people that get it. And that's I think that's cool, right? And but we got to get more of that as a group, and it's hard.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to a lot of things. So there's this guy named Chris Shunnarah. He owns a company called 737 Club, I believe. I always forget the name of the company, but he is like a gratitude guy. That's his thing, right? Okay. I made the mistake of hiring him to come down to New Orleans, and I did like an open invite where all these people could come and hear him talk and do a dinner that he does. Like, and I say mistake just because it's our industry, man. People got wasted, and he quit like in the middle of the dinner. He's like, yeah, this isn't the crowd. They're not into it. And he's great. He's fantastic. I mean, I've known him for years, but I'll tell you, like, our business is the size it is because of a lot of people, but he was definitely a very, very big contributor. The relationships that I made at the very first dinner that he facilitated, I still have today. And they're some of my best friends. And I knew no one when I walked into that room. So, and I'm going to do something for a small group with him, but I'll tell you, like, it's so simple. Just show gratitude for the people around you that help you. Tell them thank you. You know how few times people say thank you unless you've actually actually say thank you. Don't be like, thank you for getting my claim paid. Like, when when Jack calls to give you an update on your claim and it's not the update you want, still say, thank you for giving me the update. Or I appreciate you. Like that is it's so crazy how that just makes a difference. Like one of his things is people say, like, what's the first thing you say when you call someone? Hey, how's it going? And what does everyone say?
Fine, good.
Fine, right? Because no one cares, because you don't actually care how you do, but you don't actually care how he is. And he knows you don't actually care how he is.
Yeah,
so he's gonna give you the answer you need so you can move to the next step of the conversation, right? And this is the hokiest stuff you've ever heard. But this guy goes, just use 2 words to describe how you feel right now. And it's like crazy the response you get, because someone will say, I'm anxious and I am very excited. And suddenly that changes the whole conversation, because now you know that something really, really cool is about to happen in that person's life and they're super nervous about it. So you get to say, oh, really? So instead of the normal, what's going on? Oh, nothing, man. What you doing? You're like, oh, really? Why are you anxious and excited? What's about to happen to you? Well, I don't know yet, but I just got interviewed for this big job and blah, blah, blah. And suddenly you guys are like friends and you have a real connection, right? And I guess that's my point, is like, it's so simple. Just make real connections with people. Don't only call people when you want to make money from them. I do not, most of these PAs will agree with this. Actually, I do not call you guys when I'm just to get you to send me cases. I will ask you sometimes, depends on how I feel, I guess. But when I do talk to you, it's either you asking me for an update, which is fine, or checking on me, or me asking you a question. But I'm not like, send me stuff, help me, make me better. I want to know what you need. And, I'll text some people like yesterday, like, what do you need? Checking on you. And I think that it's so important, man. You can't have 5 million relationships like that. It's much harder to maintain those, but you do know that person would step in front of a speeding truck for you if you needed it.
For sure. And if we all had 50 of that and it bloomed from that, the world will be a much better place. Right. And it's a struggle, bro. Yeah. Especially in our business. It's such a struggle, man. So if you could change one thing about our business, Galen, when I say our business, I mean this whole, the restoration, the hurricane stuff. Can you pick one thing you would like to say, you know what, if I could snap my fingers and this would be a change, what would that be?
Yeah, I would like, so hard. In some ways it just needs to be burned down and built back up. And I'm including the attorneys. I'm including the attorneys in that. And I'm not bad mouthing any other attorneys at all. But, when we take the bar exam, right, we take it tests you on everything. Family law, like how long does it take to get a divorce, criminal procedure, search and seizure, right?
Divorces take 1.5 years, Galen, in Arizona.
Well, sometimes
about $850,000
longer. I know some guys on there that are like, shit, I'm still going through my divorce and it was 8 years ago. But, that's what they test us on. Like, no lawyer listening to this right now is going to be like, no, on my bar exam, I had to put down what exactly constitutes a proof of loss and how long they have to pay after that proof of loss and how we determine causation in mold cases. Like, right. So like, we're doing the best we can and we're learning, and I'm not putting down any single lawyer listening to this, but honestly, the whole industry is just freaking broken because we have no guidance or help, and no one wants us to. Like, the insurance companies don't want us to be good. They don't. They would maybe like us to behave better, but they don't want us to be good at what we do per se.
Well, I mean, they do. So it's weird, right? They need us to be around to keep shit halfway okay, because you need resistance a little bit. At the same time, though, we look like a clown show, because we are a clown show, and I'm not.
We are.
Yeah, a freaking clown show. I sit back and watch. I mean, you know Steve Badger. I mean, I actually like Steve. I think he's smart. He's doing a great job. He's doing what he should be doing, and he's blowing stuff up on LinkedIn, and people are going after him, and he's like, bam. And it's like, guys, we got to quit throwing darts, because our little bubble we're in, it's bursting, and it's not going to go well. We're going to kill ourselves over this stuff. We got to stop.
I mean, you're watching it. It is bursting right now. And it's not one group's fault, although there are some groups that are definitely contributing more than their fair share. But what I'd like to see, I guess, is when I became a lawyer, I was told that I was joining a profession.
Right.
And I was told I was joining a profession. And the cool thing about becoming a professional was that there were very few jobs that were considered professions. I basically was joining the League of Doctors and Accountants. And that was kind of it. And you will see these like debates about what constitutes a professional. And I don't really take a position one way or the other.
Yeah.
But it is odd to me to be in an industry as a quote unquote professional surround. And look, I don't care about wearing a suit and tie every day. People know this. Like they know that I'll dress however I want, right? But right. I'm a professional in an industry that by and large has this weird idea, because I don't think it's true, that lack of professionalism can be rewarded. And I don't like it. I would like to see a higher standard of professionalism within the group. I am not personally attacking anyone, but I am talking about everyone: contractors, appraisers, public adjusters, attorneys. I mean, why do these law firms have salespeople? I don't understand. Like, what is going on? We're not even supposed to be doing that. And, why are contractors, when we go out to dinner, why are some of them discussing how they're like sleeping with the lady that works for the city so they can get the city job? Like, what are we doing? Like, let's tone down. Like, I don't mind having fun, but like, let's tone down the rampant drug use. Let's not put our like dirt on social media. Please, let's stop threatening to kill each other on social media. I do not understand why that is a trend lately. And, let's try to be a profession so some of these people on the insurance carrier side cannot point to us and say they're a freaking clown show.
Right. And they use that against us every day because we're preaching one thing and then a minute later something on video that we're just doing on Facebook that takes away the whole thing. Like we keep shooting ourselves in the foot as an industry, not just attorneys, everybody, roofers, PAs, attorneys. I mean, we talked about a couple of things online from some of these attorneys posting. Like, dude, I don't care how many stacks of $100 bills are in your car, bro. That does nothing for me. Is my case handled professionally, and did you represent them and get a good settlement and did the right thing? That's what I care about. The money is the easy part, Galen. You know that. Money comes and goes. Dude, some days we have millions of dollars in bank. Some days it's too fast to even worry about, and we get all caught up in that. And then it's just clean up the profession. I'm with you, and not just the attorney, but like you're talking all of us, right?
Yeah, everyone. Yeah. Like I started with the lawyers because I really don't understand why we have salespeople, and I don't. But I know law firms, plenty of law firms that have non-lawyers literally running around selling, like they're considered sales reps. And if you're listening and you got defensive, then you definitely are doing it. But it's not just you; it's others too. There's not one firm doing it. But these law firms have like salespeople, and I don't get it. Number one, they need to be a lawyer. Number two, like I even just had to get kind of heavy with one of my lawyers because I felt like he was becoming more of a salesperson and less of a lawyer. Said, you want to go do these conferences, you want to go talk, you want to go host these meetings, that's cool. But you better not be doing cocaine at a club after hours, with a contractor, try to get them to send you work. Like that is not a profession.
Slippery slope, bro. It's a slippery freaking slope. And you get caught up in it and it's flashy, right? And we're on stage and we're talking in front of, SVG, you and I be in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people. It's cool, right? And people know you and oh my God, your ego starts spiraling. Next thing you know, bam, you're on Facebook doing dumb shit in jail and doing whatever. And I thank God I'm a little bit, my midlife crisis was about 30 years ago, bro. So I had a yellow Corvette for like a year and I'm like, this is dumb. So I moved on. But it's hard, man. I'm with you. We're trying to be better every day and not do dumb stuff. We make mistakes, Galen, 100% all the time. But we're trying to limit the stupidity. That's the hard part, right?
That's exactly it. Look, I am not judging anyone. I've made plenty of mistakes and will make more.
Sure.
But don't do illegal crap. Don't be unethical. Don't be immoral. And just try to look like you are a professional. Like, I get it that you have convinced yourself that posting whatever photos of you doing this or someone else doing that makes you sales. And you may even be able to point to hard data, but I promise you that your sales are not reliant on that.
Yes. Amen, brother. Right?
Yeah. It just, it makes no sense to me. And what really sucks is some of the people that do these things that I disagree with, like I actually like as humans. I love them.
I get that. That's hard. I've had, I've come to this point in my career that I'm able to I get calls to call the PAs and call attorneys like, hey man, do you ever talk with this guy? And I kind of put it off at first, like, no, I don't want to get like now I think I've earned that. Well, I'm old, so I think I've earned that voice in this world. I've kind of earned my my stars and my, so I think I'm at the point in my career I can do that. And I have no problem calling somebody, hey man, I don't like what you said there, but I won't do it online. I'll call them and say, hey, here's what I think and here's why. I love your brother, and like you, I have a ton of friends in this world, in this business, and I think it's, we need to hold each other accountable more and be more responsible. And I think that's what lacks is, what's wrong with another PA call? It's like, hey, I think what you did here is probably wrong. You probably want to, number one, cover your tail to make sure you're not in trouble. And number two, let's not promote that because everybody thinks that's the right way of doing it. And it's not, right? And I may be reaching too high on stuff like that, but at the same time, I do feel an obligation for that. So crazy.
And if you're looking for a barometer, find someone in your life you love and trust and think are inherently good people. Like, so my test is really, really simple. If I would not go to dinner with Amanda and you, I am not working with you.
Right.
That doesn't mean she has to like you. She won't like everyone, right?
I'm lovable and awesome. So,
you're great, right? But I don't expect her to like everyone, but because she'll have her own opinions. But if I feel like I'm going to need to apologize on the way home for the things that person does or the way they behave, then it's not happening.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I don't want to do business with people like that either, because I don't want to have to be embarrassing or apologetic for their actions, because it's going to come. That's who they really are, right? And they're usually, when that's going on, that's how they operate their business and in their personal life and the other crap. And I'm at the point like you. I can pick and choose what makes sense for me now. So
yeah, it's a luxury, but I'll tell you, if you're younger and listening to this and you think it's not possible and that it's a luxury, while it is a luxury to be able to pick and choose who you want to work with, I promise you that it's also a necessity. Because do not just go work with whoever. Like, look, I cut off, like, people don't realize this. I worked with that first public adjuster and I dropped my income to 0 overnight because I caught that public adjuster doing some illegal stuff. And I decided I wanted to get out, and he was 100% of my referrals. And I was worried that he was going to become 100% of my reputation. Because once I caught him doing it, I was like, not long before other people find it. So I cut off my entire referral source. The next day, I think I had 80 claims with him.
Oh, God.
The next day, 65 of them fired me. The other 15 stayed. And, I was really surprised because a week and a half later, people heard that PA was mad at me. Other people knew what that PA was doing before I did. And they said, why did you stop working with so-and-so? And I said, I don't want to get into it. We just are not the same person. And I disagreed with some of the things he did.
Yeah.
And I still do that. Like, if you notice, I'm still not telling anyone what he did. But he did some stuff that I disagreed with. And it was so funny. Then all of a sudden, like 2 contractors and 1 public adjuster started referring me work because I wasn't working with him.
Well, yeah, people know, bro. And we all know what we know, right? And, so it's hard, and doing shitty business never pays out. I mean, we've all been there where you get that little weird feeling in your gut, like I shouldn't take this from this entity because it seems squirrely to me. And then you take it and you're like, oh my God, it's 75,000 times worse than I thought it was. Now I'm sucking into it, and I'm associated with this, and I'm a horrible. I did that several times early in my career because I felt I had to. And I didn't value what I am and what we are enough at that point. And I think that's what it is. If you value yourself and your business and your profession, you don't need to do stuff like that, because somebody can always take the crappy claims. Somebody's always there to take the garbage, right?
And I promise it comes back and helps you too, man. Like, that public adjuster years later during Hurricane Laura, I guess, saw social media, saw people I was talking to, running with. And I only heard this like months and months later. He called behind anyone I was talking to or potentially working with and said terrible things about me. I didn't even know this was going on. I find this out months later. So some people I was talking to suddenly were like, no, I'm not going to work with you anymore. And other people, we made good relationships and we worked. Our firm handled like over 1,000 Laura claims ethically, responsibly, made really good money, helped a ton of people build back. I still have great relationships with everyone I worked with during Hurricane Laura, with the exception of one person who literally passed away. And I had a great relationship with him until he died. Right. And the other people that suddenly stopped wanting to work with me overnight, that I now know that's why, they're all like pissed off at the people they did work with, and they all want to sue each other or hate each other. And it's like scorned relationships. And I'm like, man, that PA trying to ruin my reputation because he's such a bad guy. Like, the good people weren't scared away by him and the bad people were. And who knows how much I saved myself in terms of like time, effort, strife, and money by just like by him saving me by scaring away the other bad people.
Karma, brother, like we just talked about, right? It's all part of it. It's a thing. It's a thing. Woo, that's an hour, Galen. Holy crap.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, dude. How do number one, how do people get a hold of you, and what's the best way?
Yeah, so Insurance Claim HQ is our website. You can hit us up on social media and stuff, but you know, my cell is probably not a secret. I am not putting it on a podcast. However, if you don't, yeah, sure. But you know, if you know someone, they probably know my cell if you don't know it already. But feel free to hit me up on social media or the website, and I will get back with you. Very
cool, man. Galen, number one, I appreciate everything you do for our firm. I appreciate our people working together. And secondly, and more importantly, I appreciate as your friend. You always answer my phone call. We very rarely talk about claims. We talk about everything else. I appreciate hanging out and the dinners and the wine, all the good stuff we've done. I think you're an amazing individual, and thank you for all that, man. It's so cool.
I appreciate you, Jack. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. All right, guys, Because Experience Matters podcast, season 2, Spotify, Amazon, iTunes. We are everywhere. Look for this coming out. Galen, I'll tag you when it comes out, of course, so you can get all the fun social media stuff upon this. So thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Because Experience Matters podcast. That's all for today's show. If you want to learn more or work with Jack in person, visit www.thejackhanks.com. Oh, and don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify to continue to grow the podcast and change the industry.